What if your entire network goes down and you have no idea where to start troubleshooting? In this video, I'll walk you through a foolproof 5-step troubleshooting method that solves 90% of network issues. Stick around to learn how to diagnose problems like a Cisco Pro, from physical layer failures to sneaky ACL blocks. Troubleshooting Guide. It is impossible to write a troubleshooting guide that would resolve any IP connectivity issues, because every problem depends on many factors. In this course, we will see the different steps of analysis in order to best solve a network problem. The first thing you should do is start by checking the physical connectivity. There are 3 main categories of problems that could be causing a network outage. We have the hardware failures, software crashes, bugs, and configuration errors. After trying to run ping and trace a route, you really have to start your research with the physical layer before going any further. It would be a shame to spend hours troubleshooting when the problem came from a simple, poorly connected or defective network cable. If we have access to the information room, we can go and check the status of the LEDs and the various equipment. For example, if there is no light on a link, well, you have to check at both ends of the cable if they are well connected. Interfaces or data flow is the element that is always worth checking in case of hardware problems. The show interfaces command displays important statistics to be checked. We can see if the interface is UP or down. We also have information about the package queue. This allows you to see if the router is receiving too much data than it could process. So, it doesn't necessarily indicate a problem, because it's completely normal during a traffic peak. But if these data are consistently high, then we should look a little more closely into the cause. On the same line, you can see the number of packets that have been dropped due to interface congestion. The input errors field, records errors from received frames, such as CRC. A high number of his errors could indicate wiring problems of equipment, or even duplex errors. And the output errors field indicates collision errors. This is also often linked to a difference in duplex configuration between the 2 ends. Today, most Ethernet operate in full duplex. After checking the physical layer, one can move on to more in-depth troubleshooting, such as routing and switching issues. The show IP route command is used to display the routing table on a layer 3 device such as a router. When analyzing the output of this command, one must ask what information the PC1 would need to have in order to be able to communicate with the server on the other end. That is to say, what actions would have to be taken so that it could transmit the packet to the next router. The acronym C stands for Directly Connect. That is, the router interface is directly linked to the segment of this network. The administrative distance for this code is 0, which makes it take precedence over all other entries in the routing table. As a reminder, the lower the administrative distance, the more reliable the source is. The L stands for local. The IP that is displayed is the IP of the router interface. That's why the mask is in /32. The S are for static routes. The default administrative distance for a static route is 1. This means that static routes take precedence in the routing table unless there is a direct connection to that network. Static routing is a very efficient method for small networks, which do not change frequently. On larger networks that are constantly moving, it's best to use dynamic routing, just like the RIP protocol represented by a R, OSPF with an O, or EIGRP with D. For the latter, the D corresponds to the dual algorithm that EIGRP uses to calculate its routes. In the routing table, you can also see the gateway, which is the default route. This is the path that the packet will take, if the destination is not found in the routing table. It can be configured manually, or it can be learned by a dynamic routing protocol. The gateway is part of the rest of the troubleshooting. If there is no route on the router or a default gateway to configure on the PC, communication between the 2 points will not work. In order for the PC to communicate with the server, it must have a default gateway configured, and the router must have a defined route to the server's network. The output of the show IP route command shows us that a default gateway is configured there. This static route says that to reach all the other networks, which would not be listed in the table, you will have to go through the interface that carries the IP 10.1.10.2. To check the configuration of the default gateway of the PC, you can do an ipconfig on it. In the example, we can see that it is well configured since the IP corresponds to the interface GIA01 of router 1. The next step in troubleshooting is to see if there is a name resolution issue on the network. DNS is the mapping of IP addresses to names. It's much easier to use names than IP addresses to access certain network resources. And this will be even more obvious with IPv6. This mapping can be done in 2 ways. Either in static, i.e., the system administrator creates a text file in which each computer name with their IP addresses appears. And when a user requests a connection to another computer, the system will use that file to resolve the name to the IP address. This system only works well on small networks. The other way to do this mapping is in dynamic. Here, the DNS protocol controls a database that includes the mapping of host names to IP addresses. It is possible that the network is working fine, but name resolution is failing. If you can't access a website by name and by IP address, it works, then it's probably because it's coming from the DNS. To test, you can also try to ping the IP and then by its name. After testing the physical connectivity, routing, checking the gateway, and DNS, if there is still a problem, it would be interesting to check the access list side. Routers may very well have ACLs configured, which prohibit a protocol from passing the interface back and forth. For example, on our topology, the PC is unable to use Telnet to connect to the server. To start, we will make a show IP access lists in order to display the contents of all the ACLs configured on the router. Here we see that there is an ACL called output, and which only accepts ICMP traffic. Telnet traffic will therefore be blocked by the last implicit line, deny any, which is in all ACLs. Now, we have to see if this ACL is applied on one of the router's interfaces. To do this, we'll use the command show IP interface. Here, we see that the ACL, which is called output, has been configured on the Gigabit Ethernet 00 interface as the outgoing ACL of router 1. In order for the Telnet protocol to be allowed, an ACL entry must be added that allows the Telnet protocol and its port 23.